I've recently struck a crazy deal on not one, but two BMW E36s, one of which is right behind me. And as you can tell, there's a reason for why they were so cheap. And while I'm wrenching away on my currently 4 other projects, I will need a daily driver in the meantime. That's where this comes in. This poor thing is a 316i. It has been involved in a crash over 4.5 years ago and has been left to rot ever since. But what gives me hope is that at first glance, it doesn't look like too much work. The previous owner let me know that it supposedly has no structural damage, but you know how trusting someone who wants to sell you something goes, so we'll see about that. Now, apart from that, it's also not really in the best general condition. So today, I have exactly 5 hours to get this non-running 316i back on its feet again before it will attend its main inspection tomorrow morning to get it street legal. Now, to take advantage of the 5 hours most efficiently, I'm first dividing the workload into 4 different categories. Technical. This includes getting the car up and running again and replacing the supposedly cracked radiator. Body. I will need to replace the bent fender as well as the bumper. On top of that, I will need to replace the grille bracket that holds in the famous BMW kidneys, as well as the front right arch liner. Next up, electrical. I need to put back in some headlights, taillights, as well as turn signals. And last but not least, the interior. This is definitely gonna be a challenge because first of all, I will need to clean out the car properly. Then I'll need to reupholster the roof liner, put the door cards back on, fix this weird shift knob / shift boot situation, and restore the steering wheel. It's definitely a lot, but with a well laid out plan we can jump straight to work. 5 hours starting now. My first priority is getting it up and running again, so I can drive it into my shop since it's borderline impossible to work on it outside due to the freezing temperatures. I'm immediately replacing the battery since after sitting for over 4 years, the old one is completely dead. To the extent that my battery charger can't even recognize it anymore. Oh my god, it's so cold. So, we got the battery connected, but before I fire it up, I really wanna... Oh my god, what's happening? Before, I really want to check if there's even any oil in there. Yeah, but that looks okay, I guess. When a car sits for this long, there are a bunch of things that could be bad, such as the battery, the oil, brakes, tires, belts, electrical components, and another thing that I'm quite worried about is the fuel in the gas tank, because obviously this thing has been sitting for over 4 years, I think like right around 4.5 years. So I'm suspecting that the gas will not be that good anymore. Okay, we got a light up here. Oh, wow, wrong key. Wow, and we even got half a tank. Amazing. Well, we're in neutral, I guess. Let's go for it. It doesn't want to start at all. Oh, I just noticed that the fuel pressure regulator vacuum hose is also completely cracked. Yeah, so... Oh my god. Just cleanly... While I'm at it, I'm just gonna replace this real quick. Now, things like these can theoretically impact the starting ability of a car, but in this case, I doubt it. We still need to replace it though. Okay, to me, it sounds like the injectors are actually clogged. It sounds like it wants to run, but it only wants to run on like 2 cylinders or something. So I'm gonna tap the injectors lightly with this extension, like this, and this usually frees them up a little bit. And it ran! It ran! Okay, let's try it again, but this time without applying throttle. First try, what the hell? And with the first major thing ticked off and about 4.5 hours left, I can now take care of the radiator, which the previous owner told me caused some issues and blew up. I don't know what that's supposed to even mean, but I'm not here to ask any questions, so I'm simply replacing it. Replacement parts such as the radiator are actually very affordable, so whenever I was unsure about a part, I simply decided to order a new one, as it wouldn't break the bank and it's just better to be safe than sorry. Guys, to be honest, that went actually relatively smoothly. I've never replaced a radiator on an E36 before, but seriously, it just took like 10 minutes or something to rip the old one out. But I hope I'll be able to put this new radiator back in as fast as I took the old one out, because we're really running out of time here. But before installing the new radiator, I will first need to transfer over a bunch of things from the old one to the new one, such as the fan, some brackets, clips, and the filler cap. And guys, we're making huge progress here. We already got the car up and running again. We replaced the radiator. Like seriously, I think I've never replaced the radiator that fast before. We still got 4 hours and 17 minutes left. Like doing this in 5 hours is actually kind of fun for me as well, because it's really a test of my abilities, I guess, because usually I'm really a lazy worker. I'm doing things so slowly and I'm procrastinating all the time, so setting myself a challenge like this is definitely refreshing. And with the technicalities out of the way, let's figure out the body situation. The right fender, or wing, depending on where you live, suffered the biggest blow on impact, so there's no getting around replacing it. But thankfully this is easily accomplished since it's merely held in by a few bolts. Okay. All the screws and bolts are out, so theoretically we should just be able to pop this thing out. Ah! Am I missing a screw? Oh, I am missing a screw. It turns out the front grille holder is also attached to the fender, and since both this holder and the fender are attached, it also got smashed in, which obstructed the screw I need to get to. But nothing a bit of bending can't fix. And da-da-da-da-da! Oh, come on! Oh, that's like a solid chunk of mud. How long has this been accumulating for? Oh. And now to putting the new fender on. Now what's gonna make this a little tricky is the fact that this little bracket right here is also bent. So we're gonna replace this entire thingamajig, but the problem is that this little bracket, which is welded on, so I cannot actually easily replace this. This is welded on and this is also bent. And the main issue here is that this does not only hold in the fender, or well, basically align the fender down here, but it also aligns this piece of metal right here, as well as the bumper down there. So I need to make sure that I don't know, maybe bend or hammer this back into shape as best as I can, because if this thing is only out of spec slightly, that means that our entire fender, hood, bumper gaps will not line up properly. But first, let's remove this grill bracket right here, because that's totally in the way. Guys, I know it doesn't look like it, but we are making huge progress here. This actually took up a lot of time removing the fender and this front bracket thing, because it was just stuck everywhere. Nonetheless, we are making progress. Let's go, let's put this entire front back together. I initially need to bend and hammer this little bracket back into shape before basically putting everything back onto the front in reverse order. The grill holder simply bolts up with a few screws and bolts, and the fender attaches to it. With roughly 3.5 hours left, time is ticking, but we're making good progress here and can move on to the bumper. Now this bumper is a bit mangled to say the least, and I'm planning to replace it since it's just completely out of shape, which makes it difficult to mount, but for the main inspection it will be totally fine. What's not totally fine, however, is the bracket I talked about earlier, which aligns the bumper, fender and grille bracket. It's a little more bent than I'd like, but after a bit of brute force, everything at least kinda worked. It doesn't look like much yet, but this will change after we're done with the headlights, for which I'm simply using some used ones, and I know they are a bit milky, but they should be fine for the inspection. With the front slowly but surely coming together, we cannot neglect the rear, and this is fixed just as easily by popping in some used but pretty decent looking taillights in my opinion. And if you're wondering about why there's tape, the car sat in front of my shop for a few days before I started working on it, and since I didn't want any rain to flood my trunk, I simply put some tape over it to prevent it. With 3 hours left, this poor thing is starting to glow up and finally looks like a car again after 4.5 long years of being neglected. But little did I know that everything up until this point was actually the easy part. And with the exterior done, I would say let's face the part of the video that I've been dreading to do. actually, because it's a little more complicated than the exterior of the car, and that would be the interior. I think the best idea would be to clean it out first before I start working on this mess. Oh wow, found a puzzle. Let's go. Oh gosh, oh my, that's gonna eat up so much time, eh? Thank God I'm wearing gloves. Wow, the water in this bottle is completely frozen because the car was outside for super long. I'm also wondering what the expiry date on this is. That's, wow, April 16th, 2021, March 19th, 2021. And that's the expiry date. You can just guess by the expiry date how old it actually is. This must be from like 2019 or something. Both BMWs were previously owned by the same person, and if you've watched my video on the 323i, you might have noticed that both cars have been extremely filthy, and I don't want to disrespect anyone, but I'm just happy to be able to take care of these cars now. Guys, I gotta say that ate up a tremendous amount of time. Just vacuuming out the car took me about 40 minutes, but I guess the results are worth it because at least now you can sit in this car without worrying about getting any uncurable disease. Also, I realized that the passenger seat is in a really good condition. I think the seat is very beautiful. Let me know what you think. I really like this pattern. Next up, the door cards. The brown stuff you see here is the residual glue and foam because I ripped off the old fabric since I also want to reupholster them in the future. With 1 hour and 50 minutes left, we're on the home stretch, and we better be, because the last 3 things I need to take care of on the interior are the most time consuming. The roof liner simply pops out after unscrewing some bits and bobs and slides out through the rear left door. Of course, before putting some new fabric on, I will first have to remove the old one, and since it's already been pretty soggy, it peels off very easily. Okay, I hope this goes just as good as last time, because since I'm doing this all by myself, I need to hang up the roof liner fabric on the wall, put the actual roof liner onto the wall as well, spray them down with some spray glue, and then marry them together. Should work. Now I gotta work fast. Now, as daunting as reupholstering a roof liner seems, it's actually pretty straightforward. It doesn't matter if you're building an engine or just putting some new fabric onto a roof liner. The key is always to take your time and you'll have great results. The only issue being that in this case, I cannot take my time since I'm running out of it very badly right now. But just like that, the roof liner is minty fresh again and can be put back into the, at this point, pretty good looking interior. It slides back in through the rear door, and after putting everything back where it belongs, such as the A-pillar trim, sun visors, and some lights, we can take the most time consuming thing off the list. Guys, seriously, would you look at this? I'm super happy with the outcome here. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it's much better than the hanging, soggy roof liner before. I screwed everything back in, put the A-pillar trim back in, as well as these lights, and we have literally 54 minutes left. And seriously, even though I was pretty fast, I'd say, with the roof liner, it took me about an hour, time is just running. But no time for any breaks now. There are only 2 things left on the list, so let's push through and hopefully finish this BMW before the timer runs out. And time. And this is it. I cannot believe we made it in 5 hours. Although the keen-eyed viewers among you might have noticed that I didn't install a new arch liner, and this is simply because it didn't arrive in time. So you guys, let me know in the comments below if I can count this challenge a success, but I'm just very happy that I have a daily driver now, and on top of that, a pretty cool daily driver if I say so myself. I know it's not perfect, but to get it road legal, it's more than enough. So if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to not miss any videos in the future. See you next week.